Despite this overwhelming evidence, Zamsky was still not convinced. There are some gaps between some of those forms that couldn't have been crossed by accident, he said. But Darwin scoffed at him and said, "And so you're trying to fill in the gaps with human intelligence. Your so-called theory isn't science at all. It's just humans in the gaps. You obviously just have a religious need to believe in human intelligence. But we've only scratched the surface of the overwhelming evidence for machine evolution. Here is even more convincing evidence that computers could not possibly have been designed by intelligent humans." We all know that the panda's thumb was not designed by an intelligent being, but is just an enlarged wrist bone that has been co-opted by evolution to serve a function similar to a true opposable thumb, but not as well. Intelligent designers would not have designed such a suboptimal thumb. There is a perfect analogy in computer evolution. One of the first steps after the appearance of the primitive tablet PC was the attachment of a keyboard, which allowed for faster input than the touch-sensitive LCD. But it is clear that a typewriter keyboard was accidentally attached to the tablet PC, and that the keyboard was not designed in an intelligent way. After a simple analysis of English, the predominant human language, I have determined that the layout of the computer keyboard is far from optimal. It constantly forces the fingers to reach for the most common keys. If those most common keys were placed under the normal resting position of the fingers, humans would have been able to input information into their computers nearly 100% faster. The QWERTY keyboard was clearly a co-optation of a typewriter, which brought along all the unintelligent design that had resulted from the chain of manufacturing errors in typewriter evolution. Intelligent humans would definitely not have designed such a suboptimal layout. Computers were created by manufacturing errors and sapient selection, not any sort of intelligent design process. The evidence is overwhelming. And so Zamsky was about to give up, and agree that machines must have evolved. But then he made another even more astounding discovery that convinced him of human intelligence more than ever before. The aliens had discovered televisions long ago, but their function had long been a mystery. Though the aliens had figured out how to power them with an electric current of proper voltage, the televisions still didn't seem to do anything useful. But then Zamsky was experimenting with equipment in a television station. He had brought many electric-powered machines with him, including a television to perform tests on. By a lucky stroke of fate, he powered up the station's transmitter, a television camera that was wired to the transmitter, and a television that had its own antenna. He saw the images that the camera was filming on the television, and suddenly knew what it was for. The reason the television's function had been a mystery was that it depended on other completely separate machines, and those other machines also depended on the television to be useful. He dubbed this interdependence irreducible complexity, and he was certain that this could not have happened by accident. If any of the three machines, the television camera, the transmitter, and the television, had been created by a manufacturing error, it would have been useless without the others, and wouldn't have been favored by sapient selection. And the odds of all of them occurring at the exact same time were simply too astronomically small to be believed. The humans must have designed this irreducibly complex system. But when he presented this revolutionary discovery to Darwin, he was met with only condescension. "Don't be silly," said Darwin. "Those machines evolved independently, but they originally had other functions. They were co-opted for use in the television system. Here, I'll show you how it happened." We've already seen the previous uses of two of those three machines in our previous example of telephone evolution. Here is another specimen from the cell phone family. Note that it has developed a small lens on its backside. This is the beginning of the camera, which at first was simply used to add images to telephone numbers to help the humans call the right number. At this point, the cell phone lineage diverged, with one group following the previously outlined path to become computers, while another group developed larger and larger lenses, eventually becoming the giant cameras discovered in television stations. The second component of your supposedly irreducibly complex system is the television screen, which is obviously just a simplified version of the computer we examined earlier. It has simply lost its information processing device and has become specialized for image display. The third and final piece is a transmitter antenna. This is probably the most obvious cooptation of all. The antenna originally functioned as a lightning rod. A lightning rod, in its most basic form, is nothing more than a straight piece of metal, and could easily have become accidentally attached to buildings. Over time, it progressively became stronger, so that it would hold up better under extreme conditions. Then it was co-opted by sapient selection to serve as a television transmitter antenna. That this co-optation occurred is proven by the fact that many television transmitter towers still maintain the lightning rod function, as seen in this diagram, showing the ground rod still attached to the transmitter tower. So there you have it. 3 independent and unrelated parts, each serving a unique function, until they were brought together by manufacturing errors and sapient selection into the irreducibly complex system of television. Your irreducible complexity is reducible after all. Machine evolution is a fact. From transitional forms to vestigial organs to suboptimal design to cooptation, the evidence is overwhelming.